Happy birthday, Emily. I hope you have a lot of fun today, and I hope the weather's nice because your last birthday there was the blizzard, so anything's better than that, right? One of your presents might be late, and the others will be super late because that's how magazine subscriptions work. Um, I got you the annual subscription of Dogster, a dog magazine, and Discover magazine, because I thought a little bit of doggies and a little bit of science would be the best. Although, if you're moving pretty soon, I gotta make sure that it goes to the right address. So, for your birthday, I'll finally get around to talking about the African organizations I mentioned in my last video, because we all like to learn, and I've been meaning to talk about this and send this video, but now seems like the best time. To begin, I'll give a brief overview of the Organization of African Unity, or the OAU. It was established in 1963, and initially there were around 32 countries that signed up for it and wanted to pursue like Pan-African unity and completely remove colonization from Africa and support state sovereignty and like the power of states. It definitely had a lot to deal with, and a lot of critics call it ineffective, but it was definitely a hard time to be a unifying organization. One of the biggest divisions between the people were the Francophones or the Francophones. I haven't heard it said. Just the like French-speaking people, the Anglophones, and the Arabs, because they're divided not only by like which colonies took them over, or which colonial powers, also just like the language and the government setup. It's not just that they spoke different languages, and also religion. That was a big one too. They had different religions. There were civil wars going on, particularly in Nigeria and Angola were the worst. And I have my map. I didn't really think this through, but you can see Angola down there and Nigeria right there. And then there were a lot of government coups, and many West African states, like, I hope you can see, like Ghana, Guinea, Mali, Nigeria, Sierra Leone, Liberia, Gambia, which is that little tiny section right there, and Chad, which is kind of over there, all had their political leaders overthrown by the military at various times, without serious reaction from the OAU. And it wasn't just in West Africa, also the, what's it called? Central African Republic. They went through like 10 coups in the 60s. And it's a little baffling to think about that a government can be overthrown so many times in such a short time span. But that's what they had to deal with. And so all of these government changes and these civil wars caused like refugees and displaced persons and political instability. So it was hard to keep state sovereignty alive when the leaders kept changing. But what the OAU did pretty much is just accept whichever leader was in power at that time and not try and interfere with like the civil wars or like instilling what they thought was the appropriate government for countries, because they wanted states to have their own power and choose their own government. So now there's the African Union, and it replaced the OAU in 2002, and it was necessary for many reasons, Um, one of the biggest ones, I think, was that they did completely remove colonization from Africa, and that was one of their big mandates. So also apartheid was something else that they abolished or helped abolish. So with those two things out of the way, the OAU charter became outdated somewhat, and so the African Union changed what they prioritized to more human rights, democratic values, and sustainable development. And let's see. So the African Union, it hasn't really been around that long at all, but you know, it also has its own issues to deal with, like the crippling poverty and suffering of Africans. The Sudan Civil War caused millions of people to be displaced, and they still want a presence on the global stage, and they're working to do that. So, good luck to them. But one of the things I was thinking about while I was researching this, one of the papers I was reading was like, back when the Organization of African Unity first began, it wasn't that much different from many Asian countries that were also underdeveloped. But instead of Africa, it was more Asia, like countries like China, South Korea, and Japan that became a much bigger global presence than Africa. And it just talked about what would have happened if Africa came out from under and became this global power. And this is kind of like a far-fetched thought, but I wonder if racism in America has anything to do with like how Africa is continuously seen as like this underdeveloped, just completely wrought with strife continent. And if Africa did become this major global presence, would things change for Black people in America? And that might be a silly question, but I was just thinking about it a lot, and I wonder what you guys think about it. So that's all the information I've planned to give. If you have any questions, I left a lot of information out because I wanted to talk more about what I thought was interesting than maybe cohesive information. So Emily, again, I hope you have a happy birthday, and I'll be making another video in 3 days for another special birthday, so I'll see you guys later.